Hey everyone, this is Hazen Fields II. We are here at Lexington Fields. I'm Hazen Fields II.
I'm Hazel the Field III.
And I'm Lex.
I said my name twice because I just did it that way, and I do apologize. But listen, we've got a lot of things going on. We're so glad that you are back here. We have some friends in the studio. Of course, we have our good friend Paul. Make some noise for Paul. And we also have Mr. Craig out there, Craig, and of course the voice of Nels is here. We have him there. We are really building up our studio audience.
There's a lot of people behind the camera.
Yes, that's right. And we're very happy to have good friends around us because in this time, oh dear, it's good to have people that are kind and
Indeed.
and got your back. There's a lot of stuff going on out there, folks.
There's a lot going on.
A lot of stuff.
A
lot. In certain cases, just too much. As you're watching this from home, we have just celebrated Martin Luther King Day. Right. And I know we often look at it as a day off, but I think the idea was it was supposed to be a day on. And when I say a day on, you should be on things that deal with the community, doing that which is good, trying to participate if you can. If you do, so if you missed it this year, it's fine. But think about all the things that we can do because in his memory, it was the culmination or the completion of what the American dream should have been.
It's supposed to be in reverence to the Reverend.
Very good. Yes.
It's funny. It's just the small little golf clap.
Very good. Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
No, but it's interesting because I do think to kind of get into it, especially, and it's not a bad thing. I'm glad to get the day off. And we're not going to be about the time again this comes out. We would already celebrate, but I'll be off of work tomorrow, which is always a blessing. But at the same time, I think people sometimes forget the why we celebrate, even things like President's Day or stuff like that. The small days off, they seem like smaller holidays and stuff, but I think it's also supposed to be an acknowledgement of. Right. And on Martin Luther King Day, it's supposed to be an acknowledgement of who he was, how he lived, and aspects of his identity. And I think as much as he's also a part of the American dream, I think sometimes Dr. Martin Luther King gets Americanized, if that makes sense. He gets kind of put in this position of untouchable, but yet also his stuff is bended. Sometimes the ideas and his ideologies are bent. So, if you get the chance, or if you didn't already, get a chance to do your own, just look up Dr. Martin Luther King, maybe read, maybe just make sure it's not all just from stuff you've gotten from the media and outlets. Make sure you invest a little bit yourself and learn. Either way, it's an amazing story.
And we have a tendency to do that with some of our icons. We'll create a caricature of who they are, and we forget that, that he said more than I have a dream.
Right.
Much more. In fact, there are some. I have some things here. Some of the things that Martin Luther King talked about start to become a little bit too political for the masses, and some people have said that might have been one of the reasons why he had to sacrifice his life, or his life was sacrificed, because he started talking about. One of his speeches, Beyond Vietnam, A Time to Break Silence. Right. Now, Vietnam was a turbulent time for America, and someone speaking against Vietnam. With Martin Luther King Day being tomorrow for us here, I was hoping that we wouldn't have to replicate the times. We should be able to just remember the man and not, hey, let's do the same exact thing all over again.
Yeah, we didn't need to practice.
And it's not, it's really tough because, the ideas we were talking here before everyone came in here. We were talking about resistance, and it's complicated. It's complicated that we've come to, because we want here at various fields, we are definitely protesting, but we also are very, very pro that all of our people that are watching us, and we want you to be safe. Right. We want you to be as careful as possible. So we're not going to do all the lawyering thing here, but I want you, like my son was saying, to go look up online how do I be a part of something if if you believe your voice needs to be heard in these times? Look up and find out the best ways to do it so that you can be safe as possible. But the question became, what happens when you follow the rules of safety, but your opponents don't? How do we really don't know how to. I think we landed on how do we address that. So we just talked about it, and just be in the discussion with us.
I think that's a good topic to bring up because we are in intense times. And before we get into protests, if you don't mind, I want to bring it back. Something I've been telling myself, or been finding myself doing a lot more. This usually applies to people like jobs. It usually applies to people's maybe their hobbies or like just how people enact in the world, about how people feel about themselves effectively. And I've been finding myself telling people more that you are doing better than you think you are. And mainly because for two reasons. One, oftentimes we are on our own like harsh critics. Oftentimes we are very critical of ourselves and we don't acknowledge all the amazing things that we do because we know the small mistakes that we've made along the way. And maybe other people don't see them, but they're small mistakes. But because we are as close to ourselves as we can be, all the things that maybe we're hard on ourselves, other people will dismiss. And that's just one thing in general. But another reason why I tell people, especially more now, that you are doing better than you think you are, is that currently the president of the United States of America is a criminal or has been criminally indicted.
Yes.
Epstein files, and then all the people in federal administration, and then we have there are just a lot of people, especially if they either consider the general idea of people who say do the right thing, or the general idea of the American dream, and even the people who are quote unquote winning, even the people that seem to be in power, even the people that seem to have money, whatever the case is, that we were supposed to get there a certain way. To get money and power in terms of the American dream, you're supposed to be a good person and you're supposed to work hard. And we've learned more and more often, people aren't good people and they tend to cheat. And I feel like it's very hard for a lot of people who are good people who judge themselves on small mistakes. I'm not working hard enough. I'm like, no, you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And the people you're comparing yourself to, you have no idea what they did to get there. Yes. And honestly, as of right now, most likely, probably not the best of stuff. Bringing that back down to protests, when you're just another thing for bringing protests, be safe, but it's standing up for what's right, standing up for what you believe in, doing the right thing in spite of these tense times is always the right thing, despite it being hard. I think another thing that people give themselves a hard time about is like, hey, I don't want to protest. I don't know how to protest. It's scary to protest, which is true. But what we're doing right now, trying to speak our mind against the idea of oppression, against the idea of the federal administration giving universal immunity to ICE, which is literally not a thing you can do. That's a version of protest. You don't have to be out there in the streets. You don't have to be in Minnesota. You can you do art. You can speak for your friend. You can send text messages. You can check on your community. There's a whole bunch of other ways to be there, be a good person. But you're doing better than you think you are. That's the first thing.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah,
appreciate that.
And honestly, I guess it's bringing to the sake of community. I also want to let it be known that you don't have to be in a protest alone. Yes, your own voice definitely does matter, but please lean on the strength of your community, because not even Martin Luther King Jr. did it by himself. He actually brought in the strength of multiple churches to kind of help with the whole civil rights movement as well. And also not to get it confused, because a lot of people will do bad things for the sake of keeping themselves in power, as we're already discussing. But when you are in protest against the national rule of things, right, you may be vilified. You may be against the grain in your own community. If they're standing up for one version of what is being presented through the media, right, if you're standing up for what's right, it may not always be with the flow of the common thought, right? So just keep it in mind that even though the people are going to be against you, right, standing up for the right thing, right, at the end of the day will be the best option.
Right. But isn't that the nature of a protest? Isn't it? Right. It's always been that. You are going against something by using your voice, and that's what this whole country was built on. I don't want people to start to feel that you're speaking your voice is anti-American. But it's actually everything this whole country is built upon. The very fact that we're here in this country is because there were, the founders, such as they were, disagree with England. And that's why we're here. But the problem, I think, what's happening is we have a lack of character You know, and now people, it used to be a time where character mattered.
Right.
You know, but now it's like, you know, everybody is, you know, who I blame?
Who?
You know, the first thing I blame is the weakest link. There was a television. There was a game show called The Weakest Link.
That's not where they're okay.
No, really. The Weakest Link. I'm gonna tell you what. I'm gonna tell honestly, and I might have mentioned this before, but The Weakest Link was the first game show that I recall where being snarky, being sarcastic, and being kind of mean-spirited was celebrated. So The Weakest Link, you know, going back in time for you guys that might have been, you know, much younger, it was I can't even remember the British lady's name, but basically, it was a game where you worked with and or against people in a in a group,
right?
And basically had to answer questions, you know. But she came up with the catchphrase was, if you did not do well, she would look at the camera or look at you and says, "Yeah, you're not allowed to be here anymore. You are the weakest link." And then you'd hear, burr, burr, you know, and then they'd make some sound that was humiliating, and your platform would turn a different color, and you know, you'd have
trap door fall open up. That's
just about, yeah, you know, and we celebrated, and we thought she was talented. Oh my God, I love when she says that, and she looks at the camera, and her face was, you know, harsh, you know. You are the weakest link, and I think that begat what's the
ice?
No. There is a link, but
I understand. But like, yeah,
what was the other the singing show?
With American Idol.
American Idol. What's his
Yeah.
name? Simon Cowell. Oh, I think that you're horrible in what you're doing. Get off the stage. You know, and we started to celebrate bad character.
Or not liking British people. I think
Our friends overseas, we love you as well. Over the pond, we love you. But you know, we started to celebrate that.
Yeah. We started.
You know, and I'm halfway joking.
No, I see.
But
I see, because on the same vein, I think I was thinking about this the same way as you're bringing it up, is that I think what I, to take it like a little bit further, but it's going to be a little more nuanced, but like, just stick with me here. I think we have, all right, it's going to be really deep. I'm so sorry. For our audience, if you've ever seen The Matrix, like, share, and subscribe, because it's going to be relevant.
Yes. Okay, here we go.
Matrix is about being in like effectively a augmented reality, a virtual reality. You know, if you also, spoilers alert, but it's been out forever. You should watch it. You should watch it by now. But you know, you come out of the Matrix and you're like, oh my gosh, the real world is not what I thought it was, right? And it talks about augmented reality and virtual reality and being in a simulation, all that type of stuff. That's its own thing. But I do think we're getting a point in time with how the internet is so interconnected with society that we've kind of confused ourselves with what is reality and what is online. Because I think a lot more people are way more comfortable being mean-spirited online. Yeah. And honestly, not that you should, but you can, one, in terms of free speech, and two, in terms of like the actual ability to. Like you're allowed to go online, have a name that's not yours, comment on something that you have no, you have no investment in, and be like, hey, this sucks. On its own, not bad. But then people realize, oh my gosh, if I said that to someone's face, normally there's a lot more repercussions. People are saying, I mean, that doesn't happen. And then there are terms like trolling. So now you can be mean-spirited but not take any accountability. I was really just joking. There's a term called rage baiting, which is, I believe, often used, but it's effectively what Bugs Bunny does all the time. which is like, hey, I'm teasing you to an aggressive amount, but the whole point is to get you angry. And if you get mad at me, I was joking. Why are you so mad? Ha ha, you should have known. But I think I'm mainly mentioning this because I think people have gotten too comfortable with that kind of communication.
Yes.
And then I've met people when they talk to me, whether it's about politics or something like this, and then I always find this funny. If your audience maybe can relate with this. Have you ever had a moment when you're talking to someone, maybe it's an argument, maybe it's something small, maybe it's something big, but they start going on a tirade, and at some point you realize, this has nothing to do with me. This is this isn't. You just quoted several things I didn't say. Oh, this is a lot of, and you're like, oh, this is coming from somewhere else. This is usually coming from maybe online debates you lost, or you felt like you should have won, or the way media is representing the idea of the opposite side, but it's not actually true. But I think people are getting lost in kind of a faux, or actually it absolutely is happening because the government does it all the time, but we're getting lost in the idea of having a fake opposition, a fake like villain. The whole idea of the illegal immigrants being the enemy is fake.
Right.
But at the same time, it's because of a lack of interaction, people aren't aware of the interaction anymore. I'm so sorry. I'm just wrapping up. I'm saying we're getting lost in this way of, I think that's why we're getting so mean-spirited, because we now establish a community where people are so used to being mean-spirited just to get their voice out, and they feel like they have to, and then they get celebrated online for it. So now it's like, hey, I gotta be mean. That's why I get likes and views and stuff.
Right.
And it's coming to reality.
Incoming various fields joke. Here we go.
Yeah.
See, while Justin Timberlake was actually trying to bring sexy back, we actually started bringing Vexy back. Vexy. You see that?
Okay.
That was more like a double down.
Yeah.
That was more like a double down statement than a joke. That was a walk.
You emphasized Justin Timberlake, so I thought it had to do with him.
No, but it
You
was
should have
about
emphasized.
but it was a song, "Sexy Back."
I got you.
But if we collectively laugh together, the audience will believe.
All right,
it was
one more time with just the word Vexy back. Just one more.
Vexy back. I kid.
That's what we call humor baiting. We're trying. You're pulling teeth. But no, honestly, in the same vein, like you're saying, there's a lot of different accounts out there that are kind of like forcing you to be in a dialogue that you may not even necessarily have any stakes in or have any real voice to voice in, right? There's even like fake accounts out there to kind of like perpetuate the argument of yay or nay, right? When in any type of verse, when it comes down to like whether it's like pancakes or waffles,
that one's on me,
or like who's your favorite animal and which animal is the best, or like I'm bringing arbitrary arguments out there because I'm not trying to get
online internet,
absolutely
non-controversial.
It gets viral. It's a jungle out there, but
makes you wonder how you keep them going.
But nevertheless, I think because of all these back and forth arguments with one another, I think we are, like you said, we're in an environment in which we have to either we're putting in our voice without any stakes.
Right.
You know, we're behind a screen, like you said. We have a random AOL name or Yahoo name or Gmail name, in which case, like it's like you can be traced, but people that are actually going to do that are only in it for different reasons. Getting off track. The whole point of it is the fact that like we're so used to saying the weird thing. In fact, there's I think a TikTok out there. He's like, go ahead, say the weird thing, right? In which case you can voice an opinion, which might be comical, right? But we're so used to this throwing out our 2 cents, right, without the cost of anything, you know. And then you with that kind of like just building up and bubbling up in the background, right? You kind of lose the point of what our voice actually means, right? In which case, I want to go back to Martin Luther King, which was we're going to be celebrating him tomorrow, right? He also said that when it comes down to kind of like fighting for our freedoms, it's never something. Freedom itself is anything that's given to us freely, right? It's something that we need to basically. That is basically needed to be demanded by the oppressed.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So, like, if we say it online, we could say we're making a movement, right? But with all the noise out there, it doesn't really matter, right? We actually have to have stakes in the game, right? We actually have to put our foot forward and actually kind of like you said, connect with our community in real life, right? As opposed to just saying our opinions.
Right.
So we're going to advocate here. We're going to try to start a new thing here. We're going to try to be advocates for kindness. We're going to be radicals for love. We're going to be. We want to be able to tell people if we default, let's default on goodness. Let's default on what and this is not trying to be nicey, because even now when people nicey kind of stuff, they think it's weak. They think it's a negative position, like I'm not gonna, and especially unfortunately in a lot of man spaces, people you're a beta male now, because you're and I suggest to you it's the opposite. The power of love, the power of community, the power of taking care of one another is greater. Bless you. When we're in a community, but now we're living in a society where we are we talk about it being debating, but I've noticed that people are more debasing one another. I want to humiliate you. I want to what's the word? I want to cook you. You'll hear things like that. A lot of cannibalism kind of things.
roasting.
I want to cook you. I want to roast you. I'm eating you alive. And it's like, what is going on? Why don't
At some point you get offended, then you just get hungry.
It's a full recipe for disaster.
Yeah, very good. But what were you saying?
Oh, no, I'm fine.
Okay. Oh, that's very nice. You see that even Nels, the voice of Nels. Nels is making a kind gesture to make sure my son needed a tissue. Just acts of kindness. That's it. I mean, he very well might be protecting the microphones, but the point is, it's still an act of kindness. In fact, we have our friend Craig Patricus, who is Craig, I say your name Patricus and I go to Patricus. And I go back and forth. Well, how do I say your last name properly, Craig?
Any way you want to.
No, well, okay. How is it meant to be said, Craig?
I say Patricus.
You say Patricus.
I don't even know.
Well, Craig Patricus, he is an artist himself. He's sitting right next to Paul Rudnick. And these are guys that have been kind, just showing up, being kind, and all the guys and people that are here and friends. There's a power. Right. There's a power in community, and it's a power of being upstanding. Why am I mentioning upstanding? Upstanding. Because we have a guy in the White House. I'm sorry, I got to go there. With all the atrocities that we can see that's going on, do you know that he recently accepted a Nobel Peace Prize from Maria Corina Machado? That was her Nobel Peace Prize. He accepted it.
Yeah.
He gave it to shouldn't you be insulted or hurt? I mean, the Nobel Peace Prize arguably is probably the biggest prize you could ever get.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm going to give you my trophy from Little League. But she gave it to him with almost that same spirit. Look, I know you didn't get a prize, but here, you can take mine. And he received it.
Peace through the transfer of property.
My flabber is gasted.
Yeah,
nice.
To me, you should not. That should be a character thing. Like, no, that's yours.
I think it's. I want to go into that, but also I think we're covering, as we're talking about, we're finding also one of the issues, either our personal grievances, but some of the more insidious things that are happening in the idea of protests, in the idea of how the federal administration is treating protests, and to, in my head, to try to wrap this all together, there is, yes, the idea of being kind, yes, the idea of being nice, but again, I feel like those are terms or words that you're either underrepresented or people undermine in terms of how powerful they are. But also, I think people forget that, especially with things like empathy, is honestly a sign of intelligence. Because it does take awareness to be kind. And that's the thing. Because I do believe it's easier to be mean-spirited, because usually if you're being mean-spirited, especially in this kind of way, it's coming from a self-serving nature. I want something for myself. I don't want you to have it. And it's easier to do that because you're only considering yourself, so you're considering only your own world. Right. To be kind, you have to consider others, other people, and then have empathy. You have to be not only am I considering others, but I'm imagining, and from what I know about them, from what I don't know about them, but the data I have around me for what they might be going through when I consume it. And if I don't have that data, I'm going to assume that because the world is bigger than myself, that there's something that they're going through, And then to be on top of that, to protest, you have to be I am now, with that information, with that data, fighting or protesting on the behalf of them. Another thing I want to mention, at least for the idea of protest, is that I think people, especially now, because it's hard to tell, this is, again, one of those nuanced differences, where I think a lot of people feel like protests are always against something, which I don't think is true. I don't think protests are against something. I think protests, especially when it's at its most formidable, protest is usually for something. I'm not just protesting against ICE. I'm not just protesting against the mistreatment. I'm protesting for better treatment. I'm protesting for better ways. Because if you are someone who makes these choices, because a lot of the defenses, especially if you go back with the reneegood stuff, even the deporting, we know. Take the government out of it for a second. If someone, a masked man, shows up and is hey, I'm going to beat you up and take you away from your family. And like, again, we know they're not an agent. We know, like, I'm pretty sure most people are like, hey, that guy wasn't nice.
Right.
At least.
Right, yeah.
At least. Someone walks into your house. They're like, hey, get on the floor. They do a bunch of threatening stuff. They take your kid and they leave. You're like, hey, that was kind of mean.
That's
would
right.
be one of the takeaways amongst others.
Right. Yeah. No, but to your point, we should know as human beings, we should be emotionally intelligent to understand that there are some things that are objectively mean.
Right.
Or not nice. That, even on that very base level. We had a family, I believe the Johnson family, where one of the ICE, they threw a flash bang. It was like,
I don't like something like you're confused.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, because I honestly I never heard. Have you guys heard? I never heard of flashbang until
Really?
I just thought it was automatopoeias just being put together. I really didn't know. When I first heard it, flashbang. Did they ow pow? It's like but honestly,
It does sound like a Batman comic.
it does. But
I
here
had
it
no
is.
idea.
It's horrible. It's horrible. A child was hurt, and we're accepting it. We're getting inundated that so much that we brought this up that with the loss of life of Renee Good,
Right.
we've started to downplay violence.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, a murder, or whatever you say it, murder here, it's higher than violence, so we forget the violence that's being
been
done.
Yeah.
So we got a family that deals with this flashbang, and all these things that are going on, we're losing our sense of what community can do.
Right.
And you can do it now. A lot of people are doing, and I brought it. I was going to bring it in the studio, but I thought it might be too loud for the microphone. But
A flashbang?
No, not a flashbang. I really never heard that. But anyway, I'm talking about a whistle. People are wearing whistles now
Yeah.
and blowing whistles to let people know about ICE being in the area, and that is as much as that is beautiful. It makes me so sad that we have federal agencies that we've got to warn people that they're nearby.
Right.
The concept of protecting our neighbor, protecting, peace officers are supposed to, the first word is peace. You would think,
Right.
It's PEACE, not PIECE.
Do you want a piece of this?
Yeah. I take my piece out first,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the kind of officer I am.
Right.
That's not what we should be doing.
Like even after the whole incident in Minneapolis,
Minnesota.
there was actually a speech after Minneapolis that Chrissy Nome was about. She had a podium that actually said one of ours versus all of yours.
Horrible.
All right, and that was literally coined in what you call it, Nazi Germany. You know what I mean? But like, if they're going to be talking about like, oh, we're all about peace, we're all about maintaining like the American standard, right? And then have someone literally backing this podium.
I do want
Right.
to. Please continue because I didn't mean.
No, go ahead.
I want to jump on this real quick because this is out of all the things that has been annoying me a little bit. There's a lot of people have been being like, hey, you can't just throw the word fascism out there. You can't call everyone a Nazi. And I agree. That's rude to call everybody a Nazi. But also, if people are doing Nazi-ish things and fascism,
Right.
if they don't, just stop. Stop.
Stop
if
it.
you don't want to be called fascist or Nazi, hey, we're not that. Just stop
Right.
being so close to it. This is like, it's just,
Right.
if you don't want to be called it, maybe don't run around with the Confederate flag. Like,
Right,
just
right.
like, it's just bad branding at the least.
Yeah.
If you're going to handcuff someone and you're going to put them in a car and you're going to be a masked man and you're going to call them racial slurs and I'm like, hey, you fascist.
Right.
And then you're like, hey, don't call me that. I'm like, okay, well, stop one of the things you're doing.
Right.
Maybe take the mask off.
Right.
Maybe don't wear the weird tattoo.
Right.
I don't know. It's just bad branding.
But we don't do that in any other situation. I mean, it's like if I come to your kid's house, you're the head, and I'm wearing a clown, orange hair, and I got a big red nose, and I got big shoes, and I'm making balloon animals, and I'm doing magic, and I'm laughing, and I got makeup on my face, and I laugh, and fall down, and you say to me, stop acting like a clown.
Or in our case, we just say dad's home again.
Yes, I actually was. I was a professional clown. I have no shame in that. But the point I'm trying to make is, as my son had said, don't be the thing if you don't want to be accused of being the thing.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Please continue. I just had to jump on that real quick.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. It was more the fact of like, yeah, like it's not just, I don't even know if it's necessarily bad branding. I think they really are just pulling from the book at this moment,
absolutely.
You know, and it's like, with all of these red flags out there, right? I don't even know if we can even consider it. It's like, oh, they're stepping on the lines of. I really think it's more of a fact of like the signs are there. They are clearly implementing all these plans, right? So it was like, why are we saying, oh, they're Nazi-like? It really is them utilizing their strategies.
Well, it's hard to call out and be like, oh, this is a red flag. The Nazi flag is literally a red flag.
Right.
Like, like, oh, what a red flag. No, I mean, he literally has one. Put that away, and I won't call out your red flag of having the Nazi red flag.
But I'm also going to be a proponent for this because I kind of want to stop saying Nazi and fascist because what happens is that kind of protects us from America's bad history. So in other words, we say, oh, they're acting like the Nazis in Europe. They're acting like the no, there were people that were doing that here before. There were people that were slave catchers and stuff like that.
That's a good point.
You know, so in America's history of bad behavior, you know, the Fugitive Slave Act was actually written so that there was a compromise between the North and the South to say, okay, I'll tell you what, your slave escapes, you know, you're allowed to bring them back. So people would go to jail, you know, if you harbored a slave, and then they would come in and hey, you have it there. Let's take this human being back, you know. So what I'm suggesting is all bad behavior didn't happen just in Europe. Yeah. There was bad behavior here, you know. And so, and I know it's a hard. Listen, America, I'm sorry to tell you, you did some bad things. There's history books with bad history, you know. But it doesn't mean that we can't have hope of moving better, because that's why Martin Luther King Day is important. The concept of hope and change and dreaming. And in fact, people now are mad at him. Oh, he's a dreamer. That means he was asleep. I get it. You know, it's like, you know, people, you know, so we get mad at him for dreaming. Then we get mad for people being woke. Our whole REM sleep cycle is all messed up. No one knows, you know, what to do. Do you stay awake? Do you sleep? Get insomnia? I think that's what's happening with me. I'm getting what do you call it? Emotional insomnia. I'm getting, justice insomnia. I can't sleep.
Justice.
Fair enough.
You know, I can't.
Pretty sure that's called anxiety.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Yeah,
but
that's what it's called.
You know, and if we think about those people, you know, we think about what Martin Luther King has done. If you think about the Montgomery bus boycott, I'm going there only because him marching on Washington. Do you know we have a Civil Rights Act of 1964 and a Voting Rights Act of 1965, which I found curious, because I would think that if I had passed a Civil Rights Act in 1964, it would be assumed that my voting rights would be a part of that. Right. You know, people would say, let's be just civil with each other. Okay, I'll get along with you, but no voting for you.
Voting's too far.
You know, it's like, what America. Right. Let's do our. Normally we try to do a segue, but I just can't. Let's jump right in. Ready? Remember to like, share, subscribe, and hit all the buttons. And please remember to come to www.variousfields.com. Yeah, I know. I'm so sorry. Normally we try to, but. Am I? Should we do some more ha stuff?
No. I won't lie. I'm not laughing because it's the passion is the passion is valid. The being upset is valid. Everything around that you're saying is valid. The delivery is slightly funny to me.
Yeah, I know.
But I also find everything funny.
Guy, what do you think? Should I bring it down? Any guys?
No.
Please. No, Craig, everybody's a good one. I'm sorry.
I think a lot of Yeah.
You were so great, you just broke down for a second.
I felt like I was like this.
No, you're fine. I think it's like when it comes down to it, like we hear the stories, we see like there are moments in time where like it's actually fairly benign in the news a circle for about like maybe a week or two, right? It was like, oh yeah, Trump's in office, he did a bad thing, and then you realize, oh, this is a terrible thing,
right.
And then we get fed up, we get tired, and then it goes down again. It's like there's like this slope of constant degrading bad news, right? But it just leaves us so desensitized to everything that is that's happening right now, right? So like I like the passion is there, the energy is there, and it will always be there to speak up against it, right? But like if this guy continues to do what he wants to do, if this administration just continues to throw people under the bus, right?
Literally.
This
is not even a joke.
Right.
Go on, sorry.
Like literally, just like if it just continues to happen, there's going to be a level of exhaustion that everyone's going to feel. And I think we're all feeling it in some kind of way. So it's just horrible. But we have to continue the fight regardless.
Yeah, we have to.
And I think it's actually important to acknowledge the being exhausted, acknowledge how this time has been, at the very least, disappointing, but also consistently disappointing. But at the same time, I'm going to do a little bit of a switch here and talk about some of the optimistic perspectives that I'm seeing from being in this time. Because I think you actually mentioned it briefly, which is like, this is not, again, people reference fashion, this happens in Germany, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, this is not unique. This is not a unique situation.
Indeed.
In fact, America, honestly, its trajectory in history, this is not like that big of a surprise. There's a reason why we didn't want Trump in office. We voted for it because we at least, I think the most surprising, it's surprising in the sake of being audacious, per se. But I think the most surprising thing is I think a lot of people were scared of this. But it's the fears being validated, which makes it even scarier. Sometimes you can fear things and be like, I hope it doesn't get this far.
Right.
And then you're like, oh, it got that far. But here's one of the things that I actually find kind of optimistic. One, this is the most patriotic you're going to see me. America is good at going against oppression. I like that.
Okay.
And I say this in terms of we have history of when there are crackdowns from exceedingly oppressive forces that breeds resistance. So people are seeing more of it, but also not just people of color, not people who are just low SES. There are people who have lived their whole lives either sheltered, not understanding things like that, and are being forced to acknowledge the truth of America and be like, hey, maybe America isn't the shining hill analogy,
on the hill.
city, place,
City on the hill.
whatever, Apple.
Okay. Apple on the hill.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not that. And maybe there are certain things you have to acknowledge. And I think the situation is forcing, enlightening more people because you can't hide away from the truth. With the reneegood situation, as unfortunate and we've never been in a situation, even in other things, where there's this much footage around of something all the time. And now it's becoming harder and harder and harder to stand against it. And even for people who are being like, no, even people who are saying justified, people are still saying it's not good. And for people who are saying it is good or they do find it, whatever the case is, they're still in a lower percentile. And everyone can see injustice as injustice. And that is something, no matter how hard you try, it is harder to pull the wool over the eyes of people like that. And I think we're seeing that in Minneapolis. I think we're seeing that in Minnesota. We're seeing people who normally don't feel it is their responsibility to step out and protest, who are feeling compelled to step out and protest. And I see that as engaging in a good thing to be like, hey, we are slowly coming together in a time of crisis. And this is, we're seeing where it goes. We're like, hey, where does this stop? And at least we're now seeing the resistance. We're now seeing how far we're letting this go.
I can understand that. I also I don't want to say, like, okay, so there has been a positive track record with us going against oppression.
Yes.
Right. But I want to say it's not so much that we are getting better at it. I think there's more visibility around those that are being oppressed. Right. And like back in the day, we didn't have, video cameras abundant in everyone's pocket.
Exactly.
You know, so when it affects a person or a neighborhood that is close to an individual that is normally not affected by this, right? Then that's when the bells chime and the voices sing out louder.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And which, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I understand, like, people have been oppressed throughout the centuries in American history, right? But I think it's more the fact of, like, now that it is coming closer and closer to neighborhoods, right? And you realize it's not just a distant issue anymore. And more so the fact that you're seeing it everywhere you are, right? You're saying, oh, no, this could potentially happen to us. And mind you, we've been saying this since 2021, right? Not online, but, like, people who have been opposing Trump, right? But nevertheless, like, the very fact that now it's literally happening in neighborhoods, the fact that it's really happening to civilians who pose no threat, you know, it's like, it comes down to a question of, like, when am I next, right? When do I fit the bill of being someone who would be deported, shot, or just against the government, Trump in any kind of way, right? People might be afraid of that. People might be opposed to it, right? But nevertheless, the voices are being shown and heard online everywhere we go. So again,
I think it's important that we have these conversations, because even with my loving sons, there are nuances on the same subject matter. And I think when America sits down with your family and your friends, have these discussions, because I have a slightly different take in terms of America's ability to handle oppression. And it comes to this. I believe that America is Ralph Cramden.
No idea what that is.
Ralph Cramden. Ladies and gentlemen, Ralph Cramden was a character from a show called The Honeymooners.
Okay.
And he spoke to another character, his friend, who was a ill-fated kind of dim-witted sort of guy. His name was Ed Norton, not the actor, the actual character.
Okay.
Ed Norton. And there was a scene that sticks in my mind that makes me believe that Ralph Cramden is America. So Ralph Cramden says to Ed Norton, he's trying to convince him. He's kind of a big, blustering guy. He goes, "Look, Norton, I'm your friend." He says, "You remember the time you got hit in the head with a baseball bat? Who came to your bedside? I did." He goes, "Who was the one that poured water in your flowers? I did. Who was the one that took care of the doctor? I did." Ed Norton goes, "Who was the one that hit me in the head with a baseball bat? You did." So the oppression oftentimes that America saves us from is the very oppression it created.
Right.
And so therefore, the wheels on the bus go round and round rings in my head, in the sense of it's hard to get out of this cycle, of trying. I mean, again, Martin Luther King, we're celebrating it tomorrow. You would have had it off already. It was, the whole concept was to make this a democracy, make this republic better. What's the line where in the documents that say something about to make a more perfect union?
Okay.
And I think it's an interesting phrase to make something more perfect.
Right.
There's a bit of arrogance there. There's a bit of a strange looking at things, strange perspective. Because if something is perfect, it needs no improvement. But to make something more perfect,
it's kind of hard to do.
It's kind of hard to do. But the concept is building upon the ideals that are America, had to be helped by those who were oppressed by the same.
Right. And I do want to say, I do think that was kind of more of the spirit of what I was getting at. There's actually more of a call now, I think, especially with everything that's going on, where people, especially people of color, people of OCS, who are like either doing their best to move out of America, to leave America because things are going crazy. And also there's calls from people who don't believe that certain people belong here, who are shouting that at people.
Yes.
And, to say what stakes America's, what America claims. But I like to still see, this I can tell I'm a nerd, I think my best representation of America is Captain America. And not even the white man dude with a shield, but like the shield and the idea of what that character represents.
Right.
Because oftentimes in the comics, that character does not stand for individually the government, individually the president. He's not a government dog. He would be fighting this actively, but he stands for the ideals of America. Stands for the ideals of the Statue of Liberty. You know. Yeah. And I like that being the American dream. I like that being the ideal of America. And I like the idea of everyone who considers themselves to be an American fighting for that. And these are for people who also aren't considered to be part of America. Because when people say America, they think the government. But the government's not America. When people say America, they think maybe the people, you know, the general predominant race and population. And that's not America. It is every American citizen, you know, everybody. And the reason why I like saying I think people were good at this is that I think whether it's good or not, something that America's also kind of known for across the world is being kind of crass and crude. Not usually a good thing. But I do think there's something that, whether it's due to just branding or due to somehow a belief that was installed by people who were born in America, that there is the idea of we truly like to try to fight for freedom.
Yes.
You know,
okay.
The idea of freedom.
The ideal. Yeah, idea. Yeah, right.
And I think the reason why I'm saying more of an optimistic take is not that I think the things that are happening are good. I'm not saying that I think that we should even have gotten to this point. But I see a little bit more hope in how people are protesting, standing up, and how many people are sick and tired of just even the government's take. People aren't being, there are people who are saying, hey, this should have happened. Oh, ICE is doing the right thing. There are people saying that, but that is a minority. That is a minority that happens to be lifted up or supported by the people who are in power of the federal administration. But most people see what's happening and say, that's not good. And they're using the power of community to push back against that.
That's good.
You know?
That's a good point.
And I like that because that also reminds us, like, why are we doing that? And for some people, it's for like, hey, I don't care. I don't like this happening here. I don't care what the reasoning is. I don't care anymore. It's more of this is bad. This is bad. I don't want to see some people. I don't want to see this community. Maybe somewhere else, but not in my community. And that's not on its own a good thing, but it shows it's going to stop here for each individual. I think I'm seeing, optimistically, I think I'm seeing more and more of that. Way before, when Trump was campaigning and it seemed like the lies were working very efficiently. I think we can see the administration's lies crumbling a little more. I think we see the administration trying harder.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I think that's usually a good test of, if you are to push a bully back, they're usually going to try to push back harder. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't push back.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right. I appreciate that because it's very easy to become pessimistic. It's very easy to become a skeptic. Sometimes I live in that world of fighting back but not feeling fully confident. But your point was right, because I look at the government oftentimes and I forget that it's not the government. It's we the people.
Right.
It's we the people. E pluribus unum. Is that right?
We did it once on an episode.
Did we do that? But the point is, everyone that's watching us, whoever it is, we need each other. I depend on you. You depend on me. We're all on this big blue spaceship called Earth, and your connection with me is vital to the survival of this planet. Right. And we don't want to forget that. And that's why we celebrate people like Martin Luther King. Yes, if we want to dissect anyone's life, can we find some chinks in the armor? Of course, because we're human beings. But if we look at the overall human being, the overall man, the overall people, the people around you, we should be able to determine, good character from bad in the overall sense. So if you get with like-minded neighbors and friends, let's say the words. Let's not stop saying immigrant, but let's say my neighbor, my friend, the people in my neighborhood. They're human beings. Yes, we can go down the line and say what needs to be corrected, but there's a way to do it correctly.
Indeed.
let's look at each other. You know, these you know, and love. It's easy to do it with my sons. I mean, that's innate. You know, but to love your neighbor, you know, to show concern for your neighbor, you know, your welfare is tied inextricably to mine. You know, because if, you know, I think it was Vidal Sassoon that said, if you don't look good, I don't look
good.
You know, and
really got to be better with my references. Really got to check.
No, but I mean, I know. Listen, I know I'm using dated references, but that's my role on this show. You know, I'm a man from '63. What do you want? You know, but the point is just that you know, people of bad character, people who are bad players, please stop. You know, I know it sounds interesting. Be good.
That is, I do want to. I know we're running out of time, so we'll do our last minute wrap ups. But
is it almost time?
It's almost time.
It's almost time.
Oh my gosh!
It's an impassioned speech.
I feel a lot. Did I dominate? I didn't mean to monopolize.
No. This is the time. This is the time to feel impassioned. This is the time to deliver our passion to hopefully our audience and again our various field subscribers and everyone who's been on this journey with us. We hope you're feeling the passion that we're feeling in this room, especially if you celebrated Martin Luther King Day just this past week. And upcoming in February, we'll be celebrating Black History Month. And honestly, maybe not quite like this, but more impassioned speeches will be coming because we have a lot of
Yeah, we got a lot of guests. Adam Biggs is going to be on our show. Right. He's a history professor from RPI.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about, once again, how important history is to know what's going on now.
Right.
You know? Right. I mean, you got to know. I if you don't believe me, I dare you to take off your rearview mirror and drive. It's much more dangerous.
Don't do that.
It makes sense if you think about it like crooked.
Don't.
You know.
We are here at Various Fields. Promote driving safely.
Yes, that too.
Sponsor us.
I guess to check off all the boxes then, going back to what you said about joining, making a more perfect union, that was a preamble that you were speaking of, right? And it says, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish the Constitution of the United States of America. With that being said, as we are trying to form a more perfect union, it is a testament to also keep in mind the history of those amendments and where they all came from, right? And to see where this current administration is doing with the online documentation of it all, and making all these reformations to the amendments, right? To kind of like hide them away from the public eye, to make it almost seem like it's part of a history that should be forgotten, all right? You let me know which of the boxes we are checking off in the preamble, which are being omitted, which are being lied to, which are being let go. Are we losing the tranquility? Are we losing the common defense? Are we losing the general welfare, right? As we continue going down that line of just erasing the history that we are fighting for.
Yeah. Well, I guess, guys, we're about to close it up here. Wow. Going forward, we're trying to bring back the ha-ha and the laugh,
tee-hee,
you know, and the tee-hee, you know, because we love you here, but we also let you know, please come to www.variousfields.com, look us up on YouTube, like, share, subscribe, and we thank you all. Thank you guys for being in the audience, Craig and Paul and Nels, and we're so glad for being here, and I love you guys forever and the moon and back, you know, and we hope to see you next week here on Various. I got a little song of Various. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union. That's that. Never mind. It's an old song. All right, everybody. We'll see you here next week.
That sounds like Schoolhouse Rock.
Exactly. That's exactly.
There we go.